Hello, dividend executives. Welcome back. Today, I wanted to talk about how I am structuring my $37,000 dividend portfolio, what the percentages look like, how many stocks we're holding, how much capital we have allocated to each one, and where are they really sitting, right? So first things first, of course, this is my high dividend yield portfolio. The goal with this portfolio, if you're new here, is to someday pay my mortgage. It is not a growth portfolio. I have other portfolios that are structured to have more growth, but this one is for high dividend yield and then the backbone of SCHD and VTI. So I want to jump into it. I want to look at a couple of things, but first things first, let's actually jump into where our money is split, right? So we have 12 stocks in this portfolio, and they are relatively split out pretty well, and we will talk about that. So first things first, let me just jump into the tweet from this morning, or the post, I guess, on X. And I want to break down the holdings that I have in here, right? So like I said, we have 12 holdings in the portfolio. The top 10s are the heavy hitters in the account. And you guys know where we put a lot of the money as of late and where money is going to be going over the course of 2025. But first things first, XDTE, 19% of the portfolio, which is focused on the S&P 500. QDTE, 15%, rdte 15%, Ymax 12%, SCHD 12%, VTI 6%, MSTY 6%, NVDY 5%, JEPQ 4%, TSLY a small 3% of the portfolio, and that's even after we just added a bunch of capital to it last week. And you guys know, of course, the backbones, VTI and SHD, the goal is to keep that between 15 and 20%. So I want to jump back into this, and I just want to take a look at a couple of things, right? First things first, what the heck are all these invested in, and how I have that broken down, the percentages on that. And so first, I just wanted to show you, of course, in the portfolio, this is the proof of the shares we have in here. VTI and SCHD, if you guys didn't know, these are on a $5 a day reoccurring purchase. So every single day it just goes in and it buys $5 worth of VTI and $5 worth of SCHD. And of course I have drip on these as well, but that is only on a quarterly basis. So those 5 are buying every single day. The other ones we buy together every single week. And then of course I have drip only on 4 in the portfolio, and that is QDTE, XDTE, rdte, and Ymax. And that is mostly because these give me exposure to the broader market, and they are weekly dividend paying funds. So let's jump into the spreadsheet. Of course, I created a new spreadsheet for this because I want to break down the numbers, and I want to take a look at how things are actually structured when we're looking at stuff, right? So VTI, well, what do we get with VTI? We get the entire market, right? There's what, over 3,600 holdings in VTI. So we have about 5.89% of the portfolio in there, and that gives us exposure to the entire market, which should give us some nice growth over time, right? If we look at VTI in a whole and we look at the growth on that, we're up 29.76, so basically 30% on VTI. So it's a growth stock and it's giving growth, right? SCHD, same thing here. This is dividends, high dividends, but also exposure to growth. And we have 11.95% return on SCHD. All these other ones are payers, and then some other growth ones is JEPQ, right? This is one that's not going to pay a very high, well, I shouldn't say a very high. It's still considered a high yield dividend stock, but it does not pay the crazy returns like you'll see on some of these other covered call funds, but still up 20%. So those are the 3 growth ones. And then we have some other breakdowns as well that I want to talk about, right? So entire market on VTI, SCHD is 100 dividend stocks. QDTE is based on the NASDAQ. XDTE is based on the S&P 500. rdte is based on the Russell 2000. Ymax is based off of 30 Ymax holdings. And if we want to break that down further, we can actually come in here into Ymax. And let's just come up here. Nice dividend come in. They came on Friday and will be reinvested. Should buy us over 2 shares. Let me pull here. We're down 5% on this position, but not down on the total investment. Okay, so 38.66% of the fund, right? Let's just break it down and let's look at that. So we have JPM at 4%. We have the gold miners at 4%. We have XOM or XOM or ExxonMobil at 3.95, basically 4%. We have the Ymax Bitcoin options income fund at 3.92, Snow at 3.83, PayPal at 3.82, Meta at 3.81, MSTR at 3.78, Airbnb at 3.79, and then Coin at 3.74. So that is about 40% of the fund, but that is why I'm in Ymax, right? It gives me exposure to a bunch of the Ymax products. One of the biggest pushes I made towards the end of the year was to continue to diversify the portfolio, and that was buying assets that were not single stock tickers. Of course, I still have companies I believe in on the single stock side of things, but in this portfolio, there's less volatility when you focus on broader things, right? So that's why we bought the Ymax, and then we jumped into some of the single stocks. We talked about this in a recent video about the Four Horsemen and how they are racing to get back to house money. Well, those are the single stock ones, but there's a reason why I picked those four. We'll break that down in a little bit, but we have NVDY at that 4.79% of the portfolio, CONY, MSTY, and TSLY. Those are our four single stock tickers. And then BITO is a Bitcoin exposure, but also giving us exposure to Bitcoin futures, right? So NVIDIA or NVDY is on NVIDIA, CONY is really on Bitcoin, and it's going to play with Bitcoin, and we've seen that play out this cycle. MSTY is 100% going to play off Bitcoin because they own, I think, almost 2% of the Bitcoin that are out there so far. Tesla, obviously a single company, and then JEPQ on the NASDAQ 100. So when we break that down even further, what does that mean, right? 10% of the portfolio is related to Bitcoin, which is quite a bit, right? We have those three plays on Bitcoin: BITO, CONY, and MSTY. I used to have a bunch of money in BITO. We let some shares get called, and I reduced exposure there because I was over leveraged in Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is a very volatile asset. Not that I don't like it, but in a dividend portfolio, it has a place, and I wanted to make sure that I kept that between that 10 and 15%. So 10% in Bitcoin. NASDAQ, we have about 20%. S&P 500, 19%. Russell 2000, about 15%. And then the others are spread about 36%. Now, you could go into the Ymax, which is 12% of the portfolio, and you could further break that down into that, you know, especially like the 38% we just looked at. Obviously, some of that's MSDR and some other funds, but we're just going to say other at 36.78%. And if you want to see the look of the breakdown, this is how it is, right? So lots in the S&P, lots in the NASDAQ, lots in the Russell 2000, and then we come down to Bitcoin at 10%, which I am totally comfortable with there. And then how do we look at the payouts, right? This is one of the reasons I structured the four stocks above, the NVDY, CONY, MSTY, and TSLY, is because they are monthly paying, and but they end up being weekly paying, and I'll explain that as well. But we have 12 total stocks, weekly paying 4, right? So we have XDTE, QDTE, rdte, and Ymax that are paying every single week. So 33% of the portfolio is paying us a paycheck every single Friday. 50% of the portfolio is paying monthly, and then 16.67% of the portfolio is paying quarterly. And I want to break that down even a little bit more. And so we're going to go to the spreadsheet where we talked about house money, and I just want to break this down. This is why I picked the 4 that I picked, right? We have Group A, Group B, Group C, and Group D. And you can see at the very top of the list some familiar assets: TSLY in Group A, NVDY in Group B, Group C, CONY, and Group D, MSTY. The reason why I chose the 4 I chose, not that I don't like the companies, I wouldn't have chosen them anyways. I believe in Tesla, I believe in NVIDIA, I believe in Coinbase, and I believe in MicroStrategies. But my biggest purpose behind picking those 4 is so that I also have a paycheck coming in every single week, right? For example, this week we received a bunch of, you can see them here. We received XDTE, QDTE, rdte, and Ymax, right? These are all pending, and they will all be reinvested on Monday. But another one that came in as well is going to be MSTY, right? If we come down to the history here, you can see that on Friday, this is where the payment came in. 100 shares, $2.28 per share. We got $227 worth of dividends. And then next week, next Friday, we will receive another one. And so every single week, I'm at least getting a payment from NBDY, CONY, MSTY, or TSLY. And so that is why I have it structured that way, so that I'm getting a paycheck every single week there. Nice. Bitcoin at 105,000 as of right now. Good to see. So that is the update on the portfolio. I just wanted to break that down for you guys, where I had capital, how much capital I had in each individual one. Obviously, you can see the heavy hitter at $9,000 worth of capital on XDTE, and I will be increasing these positions. We talked about this, I want to say a week or two ago, about my 2025 share counts. We have a lot of work to be done, right? The only one we've hit so far is TSLY. We got that up to 100 shares last week, and we are done with that goal. So 100% completed. We have a lot in the green, but you can see I need work on JEPQ. I have work on VTI, but those are slowly going to balance themselves out. I need 5.61 shares of VTI, which is going to cost me about $1,600. I have a $5 daily purchase, so that will slowly whittle away at that number. Same thing with JEPQ. I need 1,136 there. I need 19.85 shares by the end of the year. And I think we're going to get it done, but we'll have to make some purchases each and every single month to get that done. But the VTI and the SCHD will just slowly but surely, with drip on a quarterly basis, and then also with the $5 daily purchase, those ones are just slowly going to move up. So we have some work to be done. We have some shares to be stacking, but this is how I have it structured. Hopefully that is helpful. Of course, each and every single week as we continue to buy assets, this will continue. Let me pull this back up. This will continue to stack, but these are the percentages as of right now. This is the market exposure we have, and this is how we are getting paid with the assets we have in the portfolio. So thank you, everybody, as always. Hopefully this was helpful, and hopefully this is something you guys are doing in your portfolio just to see the kind of overall exposure you have and how your assets are broken down. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy investing. Stack those dividends. Happy investing, and we will catch you next video.